we both,
put your
contribute to, and I think, there are some families who, the husband has his set of bills he pay in the house and the wife have her set of bills, and nobody know what anyone is doing, and so if you put it together, it goes further. You can accomplish more. You can pay off debt. You can save more. And one of the things that we do talk about, the importance of saving. Do an emergency fund. We say at least as quick as you can get $1,000 in savings. That's your cushion in an event. We're not exercising faith for a negative result. But in an event something happened, you have a cushion, and you can do that together. Doing the budget together where you can see, what is owed. You can see how much money is in the accounts. You have access to all of the accounts. Your name is on all of the accounts. And granted, all things being equal, some people, like my husband has an account that is like his motorcycle fund. It's okay. I know about it. It's not a secret account. And I think transparency in finances and marriage is a huge issue, for some people. And you have to be willing to say, hey, look, our finances can be better if we work at it as a team. And you have to do your due diligence.
That was a great point that I'm trying to remember we talked about during the break. We talked about the transparency and the issues that can arise. What are some of the issues that can happen if you don't put a budget together?
If you don't put a budget together, you're basically grasping at straws. You're paying the bills. Sometimes people don't even look at their bank statements to see if it's enough money in there to cover it. They're just out there swiping, or they're out there, trying to pay something and not even keeping up with what is left. Can I afford to do this? When you don't establish a budget, your money, you have no idea how much you're spending. Case in point, food. We think, eating out is not a big deal. I've worked 12 hours. It's just easier to just go buy a fast food, grab food for the kids. Although I've cooked, I have groceries at home. It's easier to just go stop and spend money on fast food. We had a client who, when he did a budget, we tell you for 30 days, don't change nothing. Spend money like you spend it. Just write it down. Have a notebook in your vehicle. If you buy a 50-cent drink, write it down. And at the end of the 30 days, calculate how much money you have spent on eating out. This guy was spending $1,200 a month.
Wow.
On eating out.
He must have been single.
And he was single. And not realizing it, and it's like you're eating all your money up. So when you don't do a budget, one of the things too, some things you can pay cash for, like food, buying groceries, allocate money, cash. Don't swipe the card, because when you swiping your debit card, you spend way more money than what you had planned. And it's because you don't feel it. But if you have to pull out $150 cash to pay, you feel it. Swiping it, you don't. You just swipe it and keep it moving, and before you know it, you have spent way more money on food than you had planned. So with the budget, you're basically taking control of your finances and not allowing your finances to control you.
And that's what has happened over the years. We as a culture, we allow finances to tell us, okay, we got to pay this bill. And even if we don't have the money, then we got to try to figure out what we're going to do to get the money to get this bill paid. Whereas in other societies, other races have been taught. I remember taking my first lesson about budgeting and finances when I was in college. It was too late then. Discover Card had sent me a card, and nobody told me, when to stop swiping.
Right.
And I had already got in trouble. And so my daughter's in a magnet program here, and they're teaching them she's in the 7th grade. They started teaching them about budgets in the 6th grade.
Wow.
But, look at the school that she's in and look at the school. My son, he's not in the magnet program. Not that he can't be. He just like socializing better than studying.
Right.
So in his school, they're not focusing on teaching these kids about budgets and things of that sort. So, get out there and do your research, people, because it's going to affect the way your child handles finances.
Exactly.
I wasn't taught about finances. My mom, there were times she struggled with 4 kids to pay the bills. And so there was a lot that I had to learn, but I had made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
But for some odd reason, my sister, my oldest sister, knew about finances and she did things the right way. And I was like, man, when she got ready to buy her first house, and I've told this story before, she got ready to buy her first house, and my mom said, well, you don't have anything to go in the house. She said, oh, yes, I do. I got dishes and all my stuff to go on my walls. It's in my closet. I've already bought my furniture. It's over at our cousin house because she had bought a 6-bedroom house, so she had extra room.
Wow.
So she had already bought her furniture, paid it off. It was sitting over there. She had already bought her bedroom. So when she moved in, she had pretty much a full house of furniture, and she went in not being in debt.
Wow.
A lot of times we don't even
priceless.
look to get that kind of stuff until we are actually in our first place. But she was already, ahead of time.
Being financial responsible. And we have to be, because some people are just now trying to recover from mistakes that they made or errors they operated in with finances. Because my thing is this: if you have to charge clothes, you can't afford clothes.
Yes.
You just save and wait.
I got a friend, she can find a sale, and I'm talking about, girl, I paid $7 for this, girl, and it's everything she wears is nice. I'm like, Lord, why can I have that anointing? Why can't I just go to the store and immediately find the most expensive thing that's on sale for 85% off?
Right.
But it can be done.
It can be done, and I'm telling you, finances has to become a priority. It has to become a priority, because when you are operating with a budget, you're not worried about how you're going to pay this and when you're going to pay that, because you have already prepared before the month came in. You already know what you're going to do. It's so funny because now I don't keep up with my payday. I really don't. Like, it's my coworkers, they'll be like, oh, we get paid Friday. I said, oh, we do? They like, that's how I know you got it going on, because you don't even be concerned about payday. But it's because we have a plan. We purchased a house this past October. We did a 15-year mortgage.
Awesome. Because
we have a plan to pay this house off in 7 to 10 years is what the goal we have given ourselves. And that's because we're working on it. And you have to get to a place to where you want to pay off debt, because we're debt free except for the house, pay off debt and live comfortably to where you're not stressing. But you have to do a budget and implement it.
So give us some tips, because there are a lot of people out that are looking for homes. And so give them some tips on what you guys may have used in order to prepare, because, buying a house is not, okay, today I'm going to go buy a house, so I'm going to go out there and get it. You got to have your credit at a certain level. You may have to have a down payment. And then some people don't know that if your credit score is at a certain level, you may not have to pay a down payment.
Right.
So talk about that.
One of the things with us and looking for a home, you're right, you have to have your credit in order. And there are these little things out there that say, pay me $300, I get your credit up to $700 and all of that. You can do that yourself. All you have to do is pull your own credit report. And now we're at the time where people are receiving income tax. That's not a time to be shopping and just splurging. But one of the things I did back in the day when I was focusing on getting my credit straight, if I was blessed enough to receive an income tax check, I was pulling my credit report, seeing who I can call and negotiate what's on my credit report to pay them less, to get them to remove it or to change the status of it, and just making sure you're on time with your rent, if you're paying rent, on time with your utilities, because all of that plays a part in it. But you have to get yourself financially fit. You you really have to be intentional about that, because when people pull your credit report, you don't want them looking to say, oh, I can't trust them with this loan because they don't pay their bills. You know, and people look at that. And even when it comes to co-signing, who wants to co-sign with someone that a bank has already paid to do the research on to see that you're not credit worthy or trustworthy? So in buying a house, you know, you need to start working on your credit, getting yourself in a position to when you do have a mortgage and house insurance and all of the utilities, you know, that you can maintain comfortably.
And I love the fact that you said we actually became debt free.
Yes.
That means they don't owe for nothing for their car note, you know, credit card bills or any of that before they went into their home, so they can live comfortably.
Yes.
Because if you know, one thing about it is if your credit is not where it needs to be, you're going to pay sometimes hundreds
the interest
more.
Rate is ridiculous.
Thousands more over time, thousands more. But, you know, in a month, a house that may be regular, if you had great credit, maybe $1,200. Let's say it's a $200,000 home. I'm just throwing a number out there. And let's say your mortgage is $800. If your credit score is low, that $800 mortgage could very easily be $1,200.
That's right,
per
or
month.
$1,600. It could be, and
So,
you'll settle and do it and accept it because you so want this house, but then you end up being house poor, struggling every month to meet that note because you have signed for a home that you could not afford.
Yes, and so I thank you for being a guest on this show. Guess what? We're over again.
Oh, goodness.
But it's been so good. You have to go back and listen to the rest of these shows. I'm telling you, each and every show you're going to get something out of. And that's the series, What is the Role of a Wife? Miss Darlene, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
If someone had a question about your ministry, about finances, about how to do a budget, how would they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on social media, on Facebook at Darlene Calhoun. You can't miss me. Just message me or, shout out to me on Facebook. Give me your questions and we will be happy to answer them and get back with you.
Okay. Well, thank you again for tuning in to the Color Outside the Box podcast. I have been your hostess, Princess Miller. This has been a wonderful segment. Hey, why don't you share this segment? Share it with someone. Tell them about the Color Outside the Box podcast. Check us out on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on iTunes podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think about the shows. Like our posts, make us your favorite, and check us out next Monday at 7 a.m. on the Color Outside the Box podcast. Have an awesome day. Color Outside the Box is a podcast series that focuses on creating a better you. Whether it's advice about family, relationships, raising children in this technological world, marriage, or careers, we seek to find the answers to help you live your best life. So start your Monday morning off right with me, your hostess with the mostest, Princess Miller, on Color Outside the Box right here on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be heard.